So let me give you 3 keys to a breakthrough. Any one of these 3 can give you a breakthrough, but if you do all 3 of these, you're gonna have an extraordinary breakthrough. So let's start with something so simplistic that none of us would be emotionally attached to it, and we all know it's true. And let's take a symbol in society. Literally 60% of Americans are overweight. Now, I wanna ask you a question. Is that because the strategies required to losing weight are so complex that it's just completely overwhelming? No. However, if you have the wrong strategy, you're guaranteed failure, even if you're motivated and driven and excited. Is that fair to say? So if you have the wrong strategy, it's not gonna work. So let me give you 3 things in reverse order of importance, okay? Reverse order, least important first. If you want a breakthrough, one of the things that give you a breakthrough is a strategy. A new strategy could change everything. Does that make sense? A new way to do something. If you come up with the right strategy, it could save you a decade. It could save you 5 years. What is a strategy? It's a specific way to do something that if you do it that way, you get the result every time. Let's think about strategy like a recipe. If you know someone's recipe and they took 25 years to figure out how to make the perfect chocolate cake, and you're not a baker, but you got their strategy, you got their recipe, how often can you get the same quality of chocolate cake if you follow their recipe, if you follow their strategy? How often will it work? How many times? Every single time. That's the beauty of a strategy. You can give someone the perfect strategy and they can still not do it. They can even know it's the right strategy and still not follow through. That's why the problem in our society is not a lack of strategies. So is it a strategy problem, do you think? No. So don't get me wrong, I believe strategy is invaluable, but strategy without the next 2 is basically worthless in my experience. You know what to do, but you don't do what you know. But the right strategy versus the wrong strategy is critical. And why don't you make a note of this, really important. You have to do the right thing at the right time. I'll give you an example in my country. Buying a house, right thing to do. In my country, 2007, wrong time. If you bought a house in the United States in 2007, right now you're upside down anywhere from 30 to 70%. 70, in places like Las Vegas, they're down 70%. I have a friend that had a $10 million home just sold for $3 million. That's why, my friends, I'm a student of seasons. That's why you have to understand and become so incredibly bright and aware as to what's really going on. So when someone tells you the strategy, you go, is that really right now? Because they'll show you a strategy that worked. The question is it working now? You want someone who's done it and is doing it. People go to psychiatrists all the time that are taking antidepressants for their depression and they wonder why they don't get better. I mean, we're weird this way. I'm telling you, if you're gonna get a strategy, you better get somebody who's doing it. Someone's getting results. Now, strategy isn't critically important. Even though I beat up on it, is it still a huge advantage with the right strategy, yes or no? So what's the second thing? The second element, though, that affects whether you're gonna use the strategy or not is the story you tell yourself. Does that make sense? Because if your story is, I'm big boned, or I've tried what? Everything. If you tried everything, you'd have the answer, right? But when people say I tried everything, what does that do? It makes your brain go, see, I've tried everything. There's no reason to try anymore. It's not my fault. I'm just big boned. I just have low metabolism, right? It's just, I've always been this way. And by the way, people's stories are often true, but they're not effective. It may be true that you have low metabolism. It may be true that you're big boned, but that's not why you're fat. It's because you're doing nothing to change your metabolism. Make sense? Or I don't have a relationship with a great man or great woman because all the good ones are gone. Isn't that a common story people tell themselves? And what does the story do? It kills your hunger, it kills your drive, it gives you a reason not to face the discomfort. We've all lived in a society that has trained us since we're this tall now. Most of you, by the time you're 21, saw 2 million commercials and had to instantly get out of pain. Instantly out of pain. You know what the problem with getting out of pain is? It takes away the purpose of drive. How many of you know somebody who takes antidepressants right now and they're still depressed? That's because they have the same story. Even though they changed their biochemistry, the same story brings them to that lousy place. If your story is, I don't have the resources, that story is gonna kill your future. If your story is, I can get any resource I want, if I find a way to add enough what? Value to other people's lives, then you can get the resources. How many of you in this room ski or snowboard? In skiing or snowboarding, if you take up the sport and you get on a really vicious hill, there's edges where if you don't stop, you go to the edge and you'll die. And what happens is when you're brand new and you're starting to skid out of control, most people slam themselves on the ground and try to hang on to the hill for dear life. And those are the people that will never master skiing or snowboarding because they let their fear of the edge push them down. The person that goes, I'm gonna dig in, I'm gonna work even harder, I'm gonna carve. It's scary as hell, but I'm gonna stay with it. They learn to carve. Those are the people that have skiing or snowboarding be something they love for the rest of their life. Your story is everything, my friends. And by the way, I'm not lecturing you. I'm sharing with you because I've learned by my own stupidity. That's the only reason I can share this. But you change that story, you'll change your life. Give up the story that limits you. It may even be true. You may have ADD. You may have been abused as a child. It may be true. But that story is not why you don't have great relationships or a great business now. You don't have great relationships or great business now because you're so afraid of trying and failing, you keep telling that story instead of taking action. Third key, the most important key, and that is you need the right state, or Australians call state. Then what you have to understand is your state determines how you think and feel, right? How many of you in this room can remember a time when you got really angry at somebody? Do you ever notice when you're really angry at somebody, suddenly you remember everything they've ever done? Because when you go in that angry state, it makes you take the parts of your brain that relate to a story that supports that state. See, in the beginning of a relationship, when you love somebody, what will you do for them when you love somebody? What will you do? Anything. If they say, would you take out the trash? You go, take out the trash. But after 7 weeks, 7 months, or 7 years, or 70 years, somewhere in that range, something clicks different in you and they go, could you take out the trash? You go, what do I look like, your janitor? And they go, I don't know what it is. We used to have so much passion. Where did it go? I'll give you a clue, write this down. If you do what you did in the beginning of the relationship, in the end of the relationship, there won't be an end. How long have you two been together? A year. 20 years from now, there'll be no worries for you two. It's so simple. That's the difference in state, isn't it? Because when you go in a different state, you come up with a different story about your partner and then you use different strategies that aren't very good. If you're in a great state, great story, great strategies, you tend to maximize. Is this helpful? So tell me, which one of the three here do you think is the one that can screw things up the fastest and can mess things up the most? Which one of these three? Tell me. Story is the one that will sustain the problem. The one that can change everything the fastest is the state. The strategy is useful, don't get me wrong. I live for them. I mean, I can tell you some strategies in business. I've taken companies, I buy them for next to nothing and turn them around, make millions of dollars, just using a couple of little strategies. Simple business strategies where if you don't know the strategy, ignorance is not bliss, ignorance is poverty, ignorance is pain. And the way I got those strategies is I willing to fly anywhere, do anything, spend any amount of money because I knew the value of the strategy. But all that still would have been worthless if I didn't apply it. What got me to apply it was the right story in the right state. If you want to change your story, first thing you gotta do is change your state.